We're here to solve this parking lot extra parking hex puzzle, which is a full mouthful. This is from Serkan Yürekli, and it has prime numbers along the edges. And where this is a style, it's the same style and concept as trend. It's just going by a new name. The ways to think about trend puzzles is you're putting in 2 or 3 cell long things that then we'll see the remaining sets of cells in that direction. So everything we put in the grid may have a number in it. That's the typical meaning of trend, but this is an extra parking puzzle. We can have unclued cells or cars as well. So this not touching a number is okay as long as it works with everything else in the grid. And as long as these unclude, let me sort of mark these in green, like as long as these are real, as long as this still connects to the rest of the grid, we could have these be shaded. That's okay as long as the unshaded work out. So extra parking and connectivity are the extra rules. The first thing, though, in the style, which is true for just the general parking lot / trend style, is to look for just how to use the number clues to get some seeds into the grid, and the rest will flow out from some of those constrained seeds. So one way to just start there is visually to see more cramped spaces and more open spaces. Eventually, everything that's in green will be how we fulfill the numbers. Everything in gray is not a cell we can take, and so let's keep that in mind, and starting with shading everything is one thing I sort of try to do and sort of see some examples. I'm just going to go to the last clue I was shading. Here's a cell that can't go up, left, or down, right because it only has then 2 remaining, however this goes, if it goes this way or this way. You need to always have one more cell in the direction you intend to travel to still reach that number. So where I need to make a 3, but I only have 3 to the left or 3 in these directions, those don't work. This absolutely comes down this way. This can go one more cell as an automobile, so it may or may not see this cell, but it always sees this as the first, second, and third cell, or the first, second, and third cell. So when we mark this in, we can also mark these 2 in, and this notation will help us through this puzzle. It, for instance, means this 0 doesn't go right or down right. It has to go in this direction because it's got to be blocked on both sides. And one thing that actually means if it's blocked on both sides is there are cars in both of these cells. We don't know that they're part of the 0, they could be part of the 2, they could be anything, but just marking off these is going to help us visually as we work through this style. We looked at this 3 clue. There are other clues that work the same way. So this 3 clue also can't come in this direction or this direction. It must come in this direction. It will then always see these 2 cells. And a thing we should now be noting is that we've got some limits around like this 2 clue. We haven't looked at this yet, but you can't go right in the direction a car is going to be seen. So this gets marked off, this gets marked off. These edges are bad. This is an unused cell, and this is already part of a car. So this 2 is going in this direction, and it needs to see 2 unshaded cells. So that absolutely means it sees this, it sees this. For connectivity, this then is also done. This 3 clue is finished as long as this is a car cell. And so we can mark this in, we can mark this in. We now can also mark one more cell that must be part of a car because this 0 at the end of it, its travel is blocked. So this is a good useful notation for us as we make continued progress. I think these updates in the upper right are mirrored in the lower left where we also have 3s on this edge. So we can say these directions aren't used, this is. These directions aren't used, this is. And let's come back and mark in the shaded cells we know for sure, and the unshaded cells we know for sure. This 1 doesn't want to turn in front of that set. It doesn't want to turn in front of this set, doesn't want to turn in front of this set. So blocking this 3 is bad, blocking that 3 is bad. So this 1 definitely goes in this direction. Notice if it doesn't take this cell, it also has to not take this cell. So this cell is part of a car, and if that's part of a car, this cell also is part of a car, and that means this is the seen cell. And the 1 comes this way and actually is a 3 long. For this to work out. So this looks like a great start down here. Let's look at this 1. How does, sorry, I didn't mean to color that way. How does this 1 work? It's not in this direction. If it's coming this way, it's seeing too many cells. So this is going in this direction. And a thing to note is probably about this cell here. This cell can't be unseen because then this 1 has nowhere to travel. Because this cell would be unshaded at the same time this cell is unshaded. So this looks to always be shaded. We're still traveling in this way, so there will be an unseen cell here, or maybe even all the way up to here. But this 3 can't travel right in front of it, is I think the first thing to note. And I'm just looking around the grid if there's some more I can work with. Right now, I think it's still coming back to other clues. So we marked some of these cells in, and that's probably given us more constrained positions. So this 4 looks like a key set. Initially it could have gone this way, but with this cell marked off, it can't see this way, it can't see this way. It must come left or right. And I'll use a notation like this, where I've got 5 cells before being seen. These may be the car cells, but this is always unshaded, unshaded, unshaded. And does that help us? Well, this 3 can't come. Upper left would block this. It's now can't come lower left, so it can go this way or this way. But with this cell being part of a car, I don't get enough unshaded that way. So this has to go this way. Marks this in, marks these off. That's these 3. That looks good. This 3 can't come this way, can't come this way, so must come this way. It could see as many as 2 down here, or just the 1 down here with 2 and 1 on the other side. So we'll have to do some more to make this work, but we can do that right down here. This 2 isn't this way, must be this way. That marks this off, marks this in, marks this off, and one of these, but not both of these, is going to be seen. How does then this 4 work? Well, this 4 can't come this way, so this 4 also has to take one of the cell to the left or right, but all of these will be seen. That's now putting some key constraints around these other spots, and I think actually both of these being viewable is finally going to interact back with this 3 clue. So this is a really extreme form of disconnected logic, but notice we've got to take 3 in a row near this clue, and we can't use this cell because that's making us give 5 in a row. So this is part of an automobile. This is an unseen cell. This is not part of the 3 as an automobile, so there's a left-right car that's going to work for this somehow. But we still need this 3 to work. We need this 2 to work, which can't come this way or this way. So this 2 is working this way and always sees this cell. And for connectivity, we always have to have this also in white. So I think that now forces this shape for that 3. That means we need this in white. That means that this 3, which can't come this way, has to come this way. So we're starting to mark this in as a car, and so that means all these are parts of cars. To get to 2, we're going to need to fill in this. So this 2 is here. This 3 has to extend an extra cell. This is part of a car. This is part of a car. And so for this 2 to see 2 cells, it's going to go this way. And this can still be an extra car, so I don't think I can draw a line here yet. But what I do see is that I'm going to have some tension with the fact that this cell or this cell will be shaded. So if I block from the top from the 4 for connectivity, let me do this more in this color. I'm going to have to come and take these, and then this 4 doesn't exist as a car. So this has to be unshaded. That marks this in as the car up top. And what I can't then do is make this be part of a car, because now that's going to make this be part of a car. So this is left unshaded. That means this is part of a car, so this is part of this too. That means this is part of another car. I have to be able to connect this into the grid, which means this is that 4 car, and I think I now have the bottom mostly worked out. Got to reach into this cell, got to reach into this cell for connectivity. I've got to come through this channel for connectivity. That actually finishes this 3 clue, marks this off. This being an unshaded cell means 0 is going this way, and this 0 being blocked means I need to have a car here or here. So actually with this cell marked in, this has to be this car. I have to have at least one of these being unused, so there's not another car here, so this is for sure unused. This could be a car this way, or this could be part of the 0 and be open. So let's think about the 0. The 0 for sure is this direction. This 0 is for sure this direction, so this is part of a car, this is part of a car. This actually has to be part of that too right now. One more unseen in this direction on this other side of the 2, but it could be either this cell or this cell. So it may be useful at this stage is to come to the top. I've not looked at this 5 clue, but it's one of the clues that should stand out the most. It's very large. It can be left-right, where I've got 6. It's not this direction. And the thing to note in this direction is after we know that this 3 is seeing here, for intentionally seeing these 3 unshaded cells, this 5 would be seeing the same set. It'd see just these 3 unshaded cells. It would have to have 2 different on this corner. So this is not usable. So this is a case where we've got a left-right with all of these being unseen. Does that now interface with some of the other clues we have? It may work with this 4, although I still see that we can come this way for this 4 to work, and we still go left-right for this 4 to work. I think what I do notice is actually this 3 is going to be limiting, and we'll need to see, again, here's a case. I can't have all of these be unseen unless I mark this car. So I think I have to have a car coming this way. I guess maybe these three work for 1, 2. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. So there is a little bit of a parity knowing that the cell is seen, that I don't want to start my run of 3 down here. But I could have something that's like 1 and these 2 and then mark this off. So there's at least one more car on this edge between this clue and this unshaded cell, but that's not so useful right at this exact instant. So maybe let's come back to connectivity. This has to be white. These have to be white. One thing that's doing is it's now limiting how this 3 goes. This 3 can't go this way. It could come up and to the right. It could come up and to the left. If it went this way, it would leave this cell unseen. But now this 1 has a challenge. I guess it can just go this way, and that works. It can't go this way. If this goes to this spot, it's also leaving this unseen. So maybe that's one of the lessons, is that this cell is always unshaded. This 1 is, though, to the left or down and to the right. Those options are still okay for it. This 3, if it came to the left, it sees these 3 cells, but then it needs to have another car, so this would be an issue. So this doesn't go to the left. This doesn't want to come up left and down right, so this is actually, this looks to be the really important one. This is blocking that 0, so that looks okay. What it does, though, mean is I have to see this cell, so this 3 has to come this way. That now does force this 1 to have to come this way, if I'm making the right deductions. Yeah. So this marked in, this marked in. That means this 4 can't go this way. This 4 has to come this way. And if this 4 is coming this way, what it does mean is we need to dodge these cells for that car. So this is the 4, shading this in, shading this in. The 0 doesn't want to go in these directions, so it's coming left or down left. But I do need to have this be an unshaded cell. For connectivity, I'm going to need some set of these to be unshaded. Notice I've got to take one more around this too, but I don't want to take all these, so this looks like that pattern. So this is looking okay. If the 0 comes down to the left, it has to then also have another car to not see any other cells. So that blocks things off. So the 0 does go this way, and this then must be part of a car. So for connectivity, I can now actually color in all of these. That's a lot, and it should tell us this 3 is seeing these 3 together, so it's not seeing here. So this is up to the spot. I will have an issue filling in cars if I come down to here, because I'm going to have to take this cell and this cell. So this is part of a different car, and it's going to get resolved once I resolve this 1. But let's see that this cell for connectivity is needed in white. That moves this over. What clues do I still need to address? Well, with all the cars marked in, this can't be part of a car. If I put in another car in any of these spaces, these would block off. So these are all white. So we're really in the closing stage of this puzzle. This 3 is seeing 2 cells, need to see a third. This 3 needs to go one further to see those 3 cells. That should now limit how this 1 works. This 1 has to be in this direction, and it could be blocked here, but can't see all those cells, but that blocking would have to be through a single car. That's not going to work, so this has to come all the way here to see the cell, at least behind this car, and we're through. So good workout for this less common style. Hopefully you got some sense from my notation of the importance of shading, unshading, including shading those extra cells around zeros as a key step, like marking this off once we knew this went this way, or marking this off once we knew this went this way. That those are the subtle things in trend puzzles that in this parking lot renaming of trend come through as really key constraints. And the extra parking did leave some little traps, like this 2 not going to the right until we really could force it, or having an extra car here that's not otherwise marked, or over here that's not otherwise marked. It got us thinking, but it made the connectivity of white cells also key and drove a lot of the solves. So hopefully you got something through watching this video. I know it's a tricky puzzle style, but this video is meant to tell you a lot of the tips and tricks to work through parking lot, and we'll have another example tomorrow with a Sunday stumper that will further stretch your brain in these dimensions. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks. We'll see you again soon.